7 years of working from home has taught me that a change of environment is good for you. So, over the last few years, I've made multiple setups, from simple ones to more elaborate ones. And the one thing that kept following me around was my old M1 Mac Mini. So, I'd like to take you on a simple tour of one of my setups, tell you why I love working here, and share my thoughts on whether this old Mac Mini still has what it takes for someone like me in 2024. As a content creator, I currently have three setups at home: one in my home office, one in the garage studio, and this Mac Mini setup in the loft. The home office setup is where I edit my videos and photos, and the one in the garage studio is where I record my content. Now, this Mac Mini setup is where I usually write or answer emails early in the morning because of the location. It's located in our loft where I can still keep an eye on my kids when they're at home. One of the reasons I like working here is because I don't feel like I'm trapped in a small room or in a garage. It's open and airy, and it gets a ton of natural light. So let me start off with the monitor, which is the 27-inch Apple Studio display, which honestly, I really have nothing to complain about. The screen quality to me is still second to none, at least at this price point. And the design, despite having a noticeable frame, still looks very nice. So I decided not to get the optional height adjustable stand, but that's okay since I have it sitting on top of a small desk shelf by Grovemate, which elevates the monitor to eye level. And despite the smaller size, the desk shelf is actually still very usable. I like how everything is set right in front of me, and it gives the setup a very focused look. And because it's Grovemate, you can expect great quality. My Mac Mini fits just right in the shelf. Thankfully, the bottom shelf is just big enough to fit my very chunky Thunderbolt Dock. If you've been following me for a while, you'll know how much I love cars, and I try to incorporate that in any of the setups that I make for myself. As a matter of fact, I recently got into building Lego cars, so I have a little desk off to the side next to my setup where I do exactly that. Anyway, as I was browsing for random stuff that I can put on my desk, I found this miniature version of the TE37 wheels that just caught my attention. I love the fact that it's actually made out of metal, so it looks good and it feels great. Also, I have this Porsche paperweight that's made out of solid metal. This was actually a gift that was given to me a while back. So I like to add a little bit of that car enthusiast feel in my personal setups. And of course, at the heart of all of this is my M1 Mac Mini, which I purchased brand new back in 2020. It has 16 gigs of RAM and 1 terabyte of hard drive space. Since the Mac Studio wasn't introduced back then, my biggest complaint was that it was missing front-facing ports. So I've addressed that by adding a CalDigit TS4 Thunderbolt Dock. I personally think that this dock is crucial for adding any accessories to my setup, as it can deliver power, and it also adds an additional 18 ports of connectivity, especially the SD card slot. And one of my newest desk accessories is this simple MagSafe charger holder by the Artifox called Monument. Now, if you're not aware, the Artifox actually make their own line of desk accessories, and this particular one is made out of actual cement. It weighs about 2 pounds for stability, and fortunately, the bottom has a padded felt lining to prevent scratching the surface of my desk. It's unique, it's simple, and it just matches the theme of this setup. And speaking of my desk, it's the same one that I received from Ergonoffice maybe about 5 years ago. It's an electronic sit-stand desk, which still works great, and honestly, I don't mind the scratches at all. I really love this desk that I don't see myself getting rid of it anytime soon. Because I like to write in this space, I decided to use one of the nicest keyboards that I've tried. This is the Black Diamond 75 by Dry Studio. Full disclaimer, they sent me this a while back for me to try out and not necessarily to be featured in a YouTube video. I actually have a few keyboards that I haven't even shared yet, but this one so far has been my absolute favorite. I have another one, which is the black version with carbon fiber, currently sitting in my home office, and I might showcase that one in a future video. We'll see. The first thing that I'll say about this keyboard is that I absolutely love the way it looks. Second, the way it feels. It just feels very premium, and the build quality is just excellent. This particular one uses KTT wine red switches, which feels excellent when typing and sounds amazing too. It's an ideal balance between gaming and daily use, but in this case, I really just use it for typing. I always switch between desk mats, but for this setup, I'm using the medium-sized matte desk mat from GroveMade. My mouse is still my ever-trustworthy MX Master 3S by Logitech. It hasn't turned yellow like others have feared, but it did acquire a good amount of dirt over the last year of use. I guess that's to be expected. I know a lot of people have asked about this, but this is my favorite desktop toy, which is a battery-operated Wall-E toy that I got from Toys R Us many years ago. The speakers that I'm using are the AI41 5-inch bookshelf speakers by Fluence. I like the fact that they are quite large, and the overall look with the smaller desk shelf and the 27-inch monitor is very appealing to me for some reason. These speakers have amazing sound, both for music or just watching videos. They are sitting on top of white speaker stands by Bololo, which complement the look very well. Behind the speakers, I kept my Govee lights for when I just want to change the feel of the setup, especially at night. My kids also enjoy them when they're listening to music or playing games on this computer. These lights react to sound, which I find enjoyable when I'm listening to music. Sometimes it can be a little bit distracting when you're watching a movie, but you can easily just turn them off. This is my new desktop toy, which I actually made a video about last week, so I encourage you to check it out. Basically, it's a ChatGPT powered desktop robot called Rux, and I've had this for about a month now, and it's constantly receiving over-the-air updates, which I think is slowly but steadily improving the overall experience. Anyway, go check out that video, the link is at the top of this screen. A few other accessories I'd like to mention: this headphone stand by Bololo, which also has a nice area for a pen, and my Lego Land Rover Defender Classic, which I bought for myself as a birthday present. Last but not the least is my chair, which is the Carmen by Steelcase. It has a mesh backrest and seat that makes sitting here nice and cool even during hot days. The armrests are highly adjustable and is one of the most comfortable ergonomic chairs I've owned. The only thing I changed were the casters, just so they can glide more easily on the carpet. These casters are made by a company called Stealtho on Amazon. Fun fact, they sent me these prototypes to try out as they have a new design with brakes. Stay tuned for more on this later on. Okay, so now we get to how does the M1 Mac Mini feel in terms of performance 4 years later. I actually had a hard time convincing myself to get my MacBook Pro about 3 years ago because this little machine was such a powerful workhorse for something that was just a bit over $1,000 when it came out. And I'm happy to say that it still does most of the work I needed to do quite easily. Of course, compared to my more powerful MacBook Pro, it's a bit slower, but if I needed to do some video editing or Photoshop work, this thing still performs remarkably well. I really think that the Mac Mini is the best Apple computer that you can buy if you don't need to be mobile. It's a great entry point into their line of products since you can slowly build the rest of your setup to complement your workflow and your needs. It's really nice to have the 27-inch Apple Studio display to complement my Mac Mini, but be aware that there are other high-resolution options out there that offer great color accuracy and an even bigger screen size, oftentimes for much less. So while the Studio display isn't crucial, it is very nice to have in this setup. The speakers are like the cherry on top for me because I actually really like to use them in this space compared to my other setups where I prefer to use headphones. But I have to say that the keyboard has to be my favorite part of this setup because of the way it feels and the way it looks. Typing is very enjoyable, the build quality is amazing, and the aesthetics is just on point. When I'm not using this setup for work, it very naturally becomes a desk for other people in my family to enjoy, and this is probably the biggest reason as to why I love working in this space. Honestly, I'm really hoping to keep it as is for as long as possible, but just like my other setups, only time will tell. But hopefully the next iteration will be just as enjoyable as this one. I hope you enjoyed this simple tour, and I appreciate all the support that you guys have given me. If you have any questions about this setup, please let me know down below in the comments. I just want to say thank you again for watching, and I'll see you guys again next time.